will be recorded. We really encourage everyone to participate, ask all the questions. These sessions are really for you to come and learn in a fun and engaging way and ask all the experts the questions that you really want to know, whether that's digging deep into the cultivation side of things, anything around the supply chain and how products actually get into your stores, specific product formats, anything at all. We really encourage that. And this is a great place to get those answers and additional information. And of course, we encourage, though don't require consumption while learning. I will be smoking a little bit later on so that I'm not too stoned for this conversation. But I think we can get right into it. And I'd love to start with some introductions. Sabine I'll let you introduce yourself and kind of your relationship with BZAM and Dunn, and then we'll get to learn a little bit more about Dave and go into some background about Dunn products, and maybe just open up the floor as well. If anyone participated recently in the Dunn tasting, would love to hear any comments about it. Any questions that you have around the products, that would be awesome.
Oh, the tasting was, the acai gelato pre-rolls are the best. I've only heard amazing things, and I have had the double pack here in BC, which is the best. But so hello everybody, I'm Sabine from BZAM Cannabis. You might have seen me on a few things. We usually do a lot of stuff with the BTA team, and we love working with bud tenders and the BTA team as a whole. And we're also really happy to have a really incredible partnership with Dunn and Logan Dunn and his team. And his team includes Dave, and Dave is here joining us today to answer all of the questions of what happens at the Dunn facilities, how they grow, maybe some sneak peeks about things that are coming down the pipeline. But yeah, we're just really excited to be here with you all, and thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Sabine. Dave, would love to hear more about how you got involved with Dunn. I know that you're Logan's right-hand man and responsible for a lot of what we have the pleasure of experiencing and consuming in market. So if you could give us a bit of a background on your story and why you're in cannabis, how you got here, we'd love to hear.
The host's name is Tom, but he's not there today.
There you go. I'm still learning this whole tech savvy stuff. I've been with Dunn for about 6 years and been growing for just around 12 years now. The best part of my career has been working with Logan at Dunn Cannabis. We've never really settled for anything but the best. A lot of growers, they find that one strain, that one cultivar that kind of rocks in the market, and they stick to it. And Logan's always had the, we've got to find something better. There's got to be something cooler out there. So we've always been on the search and on the hunt for new cultivars to bring basically to market. And this last few months has been really awesome for us and really awesome for me. He's basically sent me around to go find the fire. So I've been going around visiting different craft nurseries, visiting different facilities, seeing who's got what we have in our lineup. We're working with different breeders. So it's like a lot of really cool things are going to be happening real soon here. The phenos that you do have, like the pink velvet that you're seeing with the rosé, those are all pheno hunted by us. Pretty much everything in the Dunn lineup right now isn't from anybody else but ourselves. So everything's been seed started and pheno hunted and selected by myself and by Logan. The nice thing about our facility is super small in comparison to BZAM, so we can really focus on working with those cultivars, seeing where they thrive, and it's a lot of work to get a pheno to market. Like you can test 100 seeds, you find one that you like, you find one that's a winner, you got to ramp it up into a mother plant, you got to veg that mother plant until you get to the point where it's you can take 500, 600 cuts off it, then you got to veg that. So literally it takes almost a year to get the product or a room ready to you guys. So for us, it's a bit of a process, but when we get there and you guys get it, hopefully everybody's pleased with it, right? So like the rosé is a wonderful product. The terpenes on it are amazing. the whole facility smells when we're growing it. And then when we chop it and dry it, it's pretty cool because when you're driving up the street, you can actually smell it right down the road. So yeah, very, very nice terpenes on it. The THC levels on it are beautiful. I think it tested out 28, 29% on this last run. So yeah, I'd love to hear everybody's feedback on, you know, if that's what they're smoking now or, you know, what everybody thinks on it.
Killer. So for the folks in the crowd, Pink Velvet 44, that's in Ontario right now, is what we wanted to call rosé. But because it was too close to the like liquor name, we had to call it Pink Velvet 44. So that's the one that Dave's talking about. And the one that just landed in Ontario, I think came in at 3.49% terpenes, and their newer lots are coming in a little bit higher too in THC as well, which is really, really rad. It's incredible. It's an experience.
That sounds delicious. I unfortunately haven't had the opportunity of trying it yet, but has anyone in this session tried the Pink Velvet 44?
Yes, I loved it personally.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What did you love about it? What was your favorite? Was it the experience, the flavor profile? Tell us a little bit more.
Personally, I found it like pretty heavy hitting, but it was a slow, like it wasn't a right away. Like you kind of felt it right behind your eyes. And then when you were sitting there for a minute, it all just kind of like hit you all at once. I really like that.
Good to know. Thank you for sharing.
For Elise just asked, I think it is also, or she just asked, it is in the pre-roll pack in the multi-pack here in BC. So you can try Pink Velvet 44 in BC, just not in a flower. It's incredible. You should get the multi-pack.
I'd like to actually touch upon the multi-pack because that's the first time that I've seen a similar collaboration between two companies and be able to divide that up between the two strains. I find that very interesting. So would love to hear how you decided on what you were going to be matching and mixing and matching in that packaging. And then Dave, really interested in the pheno hunting side of things. So if people on the call are also interested in discussing that and learning more about the process behind pheno hunting, I think that's something really great that we can discuss a little bit later. I know you have a little presentation you'd like to go through, Sabine, so we can go through that and kind of get all the information out there so that if there are any follow-up questions, we can get to those. And then if we want to focus on the pheno hunting side of things. And it's also crazy to me to think that it takes almost a year from the time that, you know, you're working and happy with a select cultivar to be able to bring it to the people. And the love and time that goes into that isn't necessarily recognized by consumers. And so, you know, talking about that process, I think is also really interesting for this call. If anyone has on the call has specific things that they would like or topics that they would like to focus on, knowing what Dunn is bringing to market, please put it in the chat and we'll try to cover it off throughout the session. But Sabine, I'll let you take it away. I think you have screen share ability. So
I think I do. Oh yeah, it should work. Hi everybody. This will be really quick because I really want to make sure that we have so much time to ask and answer questions. So I really wanted to just go over like Dunn if you were new and haven't heard of Dunn, the brand before. For people in BC, you might have heard of Dunn because Logan and Dave are usually the people literally driving around handing out the strain cards and like meeting everyone. So it's incredible just to have like such dedicated team members like yourselves. But in Ontario, we haven't necessarily had that opportunity. We just hit a couple of other provinces with refreshed packaging. So Dunn itself, though, is a micro here in Vancouver, just outside Vancouver in Abbotsford. And what's really cool about the Dunn facility, it was actually the first micro facility in the entire province, or the first licensed micro facility. So congratulations, Dunn and Dave and Logan and the team. It was like, it's very cool to do that. And you also just got your farm gate ability, which I'm thrilled about, and direct delivery, which hopefully will launch sooner rather than later, but the province is still figuring things out. But we're really excited that Dunn's going to be able to do both of those things now here in BC. But what's really, really great about the brand is everyone on the team has like a lot of long-term experience. And what's been really incredible about our partnership between BZAM and our other brands and Dunn's team is just like the same kind of passion for the plant and really understanding what the plant is and appreciating the plant and the care that goes into it. And then the personalization and knowledge sharing is something that we all really share, which is super awesome. So they obviously talked about pheno hunting and really focus on like really incredible genetics. And Dave and Logan have told me a few times actually that they like to grow things that are harder to grow. And I think that that's always an interesting conversation in cannabis that we don't always think about how things come to market, is because things that are harder to grow take more time, more effort, and physically just like more investment as a whole. So it's great that there's brands like Dunn that are focusing on strains that are a little bit more unique, a little bit harder, not super easy, but obviously the payoff is like really there. And the team focuses on craft processes like the entire way through. So in the photo that I've got screen shared, what you can see is the hang drying in the curing process where they do a cold room. And what that really allows in the hang drying on the full plant like this is just really prioritizing those flavor profiles and maximizing those terpenes so that you get the best tasting bud you possibly can, which is really great. And then some strains that are out there, we don't have to go crazy deep because we will definitely talk about these, but BC Valley Gas is in a few different provinces. In Ontario, there's a really great lot where the second terpene is actually Selena, which I've really never seen before. And so if you have customers who are terpene people and they like are terpene hunters, or I know a lot of us are, the BC Valley Gas is like pretty cool to hunt down and see if you can get that lot. But yeah, that's actually kind of all I wanted to really say. And then we can dive into the craft series and answer any other questions. I've got all the things open if we need anything at any time. But yeah, thank you. That was it. Easy peasy. Dave, do you have anything you want to add to the brand? Did I miss anything? The mute's so fun.
Yeah, I think covered just about everything there. You know, when it comes to us selecting and growing stuff, it's not about the biggest producer. It's not about, you know, us always hitting 3 pounds of light. You know, sure, gorgeous. We would absolutely love that. The pink velvet in itself, that's actually a really low yielder. And it does take a lot of time. And a lot of these phenos that you were talking about, they are difficult to grow. And, you know, when we're testing these strains out, we have to stress test them, run different food menus, run different environments, different VPDs, which is a vapor pressure deficit. It's basically how the plant is breathing and uptaking nutrients. And some of them are capable of some pretty amazing ones. And other cultivars, you know, they require a whole lot less. So it is a little bit of fine tuning. And definitely when it comes down to the slow dry, a lot of facilities will they'll flash dry it in a sense to get it out to market a little faster. There's no care taken in it. You know, it runs right through a machine. One thing we've done at the BZAM facility as well is we've pretty much put the trim machine away, right? So everything right now, yes, absolutely. You know, it, in my opinion, just destroys weed. Yes, there's some great growers out there. There's some great product, and unfortunately, they cheap out and it goes right through the machine. You're destroying trichomes, which you've spent 8 to 11 weeks to perfect, and then you're flash drying it. You're losing all your terpenes, all your flavor, and by the time the consumer gets it, it's not a properly cured product. So we are taking the time now. You know, we've always done this at our facility, and we're implementing it and have implemented it at the BZAM facility. And, you know, it does, the dry rooms are stacked up and it is taking a lot more time to get the job done. But the product the consumers are getting, everybody's been raving about it. There's no dust in there. You know, you've got a nice, properly cured product. Terpenes are popping. I don't know if anybody's opened the tins, the pre-rolls. As soon as you open that bag, the terpenes, they hit you, right? And that's the effect that we want. That's the quality we want for the customer to get. And like, I ventured out there myself. I mean, I'm not out here to bash anybody else, but I've tried a ton of pre-rolls, and as soon as you crack that bag, it smells like you're on a hay farm, right? So it's like, you know, we want to preserve the terpenes, we want to preserve the product, you know, and obviously deliver the best for people. So you really covered it there. The growing is one end of it. When it comes down to the curing and the drying and the trimming, that's a whole nother ball game there, a whole nother monster on its own that a lot of people don't pay a lot of attention to. So yeah, good coverage on that.
Oh, that's we have a couple questions, which is great, but I think I'd love if you can kind of talk a little bit about like drying versus curing, because like there is a slight difference between them, and you do both for a very long period of time. I'd love if you can talk like specifically about what that length is and how long it actually is.
During the hang dry process, it can go anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. We try to go as cold as possible. And what that does is the colder temperature actually slows down the dehumidification process. And that's going to help preserve some of the terpenes. And then we kind of throttle that up and down. So, within the first week, we'll try to run the room as cold as possible, as cold as the ACs will run it. Dehumidification is slowed right down at that point. And then for a day or two, we'll actually raise the temperatures a bit. And then when that's going to, dehums are going to kick in and kind of start to dry the product, then we slow it down again. So we do this process over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then when the product is pretty much just about dry, and we're not talking like crispy dry, but dry enough to where it's good for the hand trimmers. They'll come in, they'll do their hand trim on it. And then from that point, it goes back into bins and then goes back into cold storage. And from that point, we kind of start the curing process, right? So temperatures are pretty leveled, humidity is leveled. We're looking around like, 60 in a sense. And we burp those containers throughout the month, 2-3 weeks, I would say, again, on that process. So by the time that we do send it out, it is a dried flower, but if you squeeze the buds, they still have that proper moisture to it, but snap. Right, we're not talking where you grab the bud and you can dust it right into your hand and roll your joint, right? So it's a properly cured product for your customers. It does take some time though, and this is why a lot of people don't do this, is because the quicker you can get obviously the product to the bud tenders and the bud tenders can get it out, perfect, you're making money. But are they getting a good quality product? So we're all about making sure it's quality before it leaves our facility. And that does take time, right? And that's one thing which is really awesome about working with BZAM is like we're super small. We're talking like 2,000 square feet of canopy, and that's like one of their rooms, right? And they've got 10 of those rooms, and we've got one small dry room, and they've got half a dozen. So implementing what we're doing craft style on small scale, on large scale, it is possible and it is doable, right? So, the getting the product out of the BZAM facility has been taking a lot longer now, but the quality is through the roof. And we do have, we've got people from other facilities coming over and being like, hey, what is going on over here? Like everything's so great, right? So it's been an exciting ride. We're super excited about it. And with everything we have coming down the line and the new phenos is great.
No, I super appreciate that. I think it's great to always know like the full process after harvest. Like it does take so much more time and investment. And yeah, like you guys have really come to the table and been just like so incredible. I see Elise has a hand though.
I have two hands. I made that joke. Yeah, I had a question. So earlier you said that you guys source like smaller grows or farms. So is that like, of them and you go hunt them out? Do they apply to become that for you? Like, does your team go in and show them like, this is how our standard is? Like, I'm just so curious, like how you like outsource that. Like, I think that's really cool. And yeah, it's just, if we could talk more about that.
So there's actually a number of different ways. Instagram is one big one. A lot of micros, they do have an account. I personally try to follow from my exclusive cannabis consulting Instagram page. I reach out to all the different micros. I like to follow them. I like to see what they have growing. I like to see what they have going. I follow a lot of different nurseries. As well as on Facebook, there's a micro licensing page, and they keep everybody up to date on new micros. So we try to reach out to everybody, and see what everybody's up to, see what they're growing, see what they're doing, especially when it comes down to doing collab packs or looking at doing breeding. We do reach out different breeders, different craft nurseries. between tissue culturing and all this stuff, there's just so many different capabilities. The cool thing about the way this industry has gone is before, if you had something good, you kept it a secret. You know, you didn't want other growers to know, you know, what you were doing to succeed, or, you know, if you had a great pheno, you didn't want to let that out to anybody else. But realistically, we can never, you know, with 2,200 square feet of canopy space, we could never fill all the orders or get, you know, even reach anybody with that. So doing collaborations, especially with BZAM, you know, I mean, that ups our canopy space to 22,000 square feet, right? So I hope that kind of helps answer your question there. You know, when we do find somebody that's doing really well, personally, I will reach out and ask them if I can get a tour of their facility. I'll, you know, if they're not already familiar with Dunn Cannabis, I'll tell them, you know, what we're about, what we're looking to do, you know, and we'll work with just about anybody that's doing well in the industry. You know, if we can learn something from them, they can learn something from us. You know, it really is a cannabis community out there now between growers, where before it really wasn't. So
I love that. Thank you. That was actually super cool to learn, and I really appreciate it. I just like to know that it's like you at your level are like, no, I'm learning also from a micro farmer, and that you are like hustling on your nights off. Like, that's so awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing.
I think what's really cool too about the BC space is that like the micros here are so important. And like, obviously, because BC Bud's been like such a thing for a long time, and the micros are a lot of the people that have been growing for a really long time. And like the Dunn facility is so tiny. It's the cutest and best thing ever. And eventually we'll get everybody there in an incredible video. But it's great that the micros are having this relationship with each other. And it's really, I think, so important as we all are looking towards building the same industry together, that everybody is communicating.
Dave, I'm super curious. You're obviously in a very privileged position to meet with all of these micro growers and visit these nurseries. And everyone's probably trying to do the next cool thing, and, you know, a lot of innovation. Can you share some of the finest things that you've seen out there and that you're excited for?
yeah, I gotta say, you know, just about everywhere I go, I'm pretty impressed with just kind of everything everybody's doing in the industry. I think everybody's kind of realizing right now that, you know, like I'd mentioned earlier, you find that one cultivar, that one strain that's been your bread and butter, maybe in the old legacy market, you know, and then now you're in the legal market, and all you want to grow is that Pink Kush or that Bubba Kush or whatever. Great, that's a staple for you. That's only going to go so far, you know. And I think it was with BZAM's marketing team, they were talking about for 2023 looking at introducing 6 new cultivars, you know, quarterly, right? So I mean, that's going to be huge. So you know, reaching out to these people, going and finding what they're doing. I mean, I'm seeing some pretty awesome stuff out of some of these facilities, you know, and especially where people are taking it to the next level, right? Doing viral scans, doing tissue culture, the different phenos that they've brought from the legacy, and they're doing their own breeding on it, crossing it with new things. So it's been really awesome. And it's, I gotta say, I am blessed for the, you know, from going from being stuck in a grow room for forever, which I love, don't get me wrong, to being able to be in a position now to come out to the Edmonton facility, help diagnose, help see what we can do to make that better. The last few months traveling around to these nurseries, seeing the different flowers, seeing the different, you know, grow methods that people are growing under, and kind of combining it all. And it's going to make for a really awesome 2023. I got to say that.
Amazing. And then just a side note for everyone, Dave, you're using terms like tissue culture and things that come up a lot in like the breeding side of things. And when we get into pheno hunting, there might be some terminology as well that bud tenders don't use on a daily basis, but also is very informative to understand, you know, the grow process. So if anyone does have any questions and they hear a term that they're not so familiar with, please put it in the chat, because I'm sure it will be beneficial for everyone on the call to hear a little bit more information around that. So speaking of tissue culture, can you tell us a little bit what you mean by that?
With tissue culture, so through time, like your mother plant that you're taking cuttings off of, a mother plant is obviously alive in the grow room a lot longer. It's more susceptible to start breaking down. You're taking cuttings off it. The chances of it getting cross-contamination, and that can either be from bugs, from dirty scissors, from people on their own just touching the plant. It happens, right? So the mother kind of starts to, to degrade down a bit. And what you do is, yeah, you can cut it and restart it, but you're basically, when you take a clone, it's a duplicate of the mom, right? So it's anything that the mom has is basically passing on to the clone. So what we do on a regular basis is we send it out for tissue culture. And what that is basically a petri dish, right? So they completely sanitize a cutting, just a piece of this plant. We're not talking like stem, we're talking a piece of leaf, any part of this plant. They'll completely 100% sterilize it and then put it in this petri dish, and they'll start the plant from there. If you're not familiar with tissue culturing, you can YouTube it. You can search it on Google and see the process. It's mind-boggling. It is absolutely mind-boggling. But what this does is this eliminates any viruses. It gets rid of any kind of, bacteria or any viral load that might be around the plant. And you're basically like getting 100% clean plant to start again with. So we constantly do this with our genetics, and so does BZAM as well. Not a lot of people do, but then you start seeing problems show up in flower later on. Your yields start getting less, your THC starts dropping. Overall, the quality of the bud starts dropping down. And a lot of growers and a lot of shops, they don't understand, well, what are we doing? What's wrong? Let's change our feed. Let's do this. Let's do that. It's just a natural process, right? It's kind of like, if we got to start young again, right? Would be, our immune systems would be perfect, right? So it's the same as a plant. The older it is, the weaker it gets. And we start everything over from tissue culture, and it just keeps our genetics super strong. And that's the same as once we've had a genetic around for a while and it starts to slow down on the market. This is where we're going to start breeding it with new stuff, right? So we're getting kind of the best of what everybody liked, and we're introducing something new to it. And then we've also got 100% strong plant again, a new genetic coming into the market. If that
Amazing.
helps.
Thank you for that. Do you think that's likely going to be something that brands will be, or licensed producers will be advertising down the line, that your genetics are from tissue or I guess ongoing produced? I don't know what the right terminology is, but I don't even know if they would do that in the wine industry, for example, when you're talking about terroir and we're already talking about grow mediums, but then how are you preserving your genetics? And I wonder if that's going to be the detail that we get into down the line.
I do believe in a sense it will get to that point. I mean, as to the consumer, at the end of the day, if you're telling them you have the highest quality, cleanest cannabis, sure you do. Well, why do you? Right? So if you're a bud tender and you say, here, this Dunn cannabis right here is the cleanest, strongest genetics you'll ever buy, and they ask you why, or you ask another brand, you could literally say, well, because they keep a sterile room, I suppose, right? I mean, at the end of the day, to say, these guys constantly TC their mothers. We always do viral scans on our products as well. Consistently on our plants as they're growing, just to make sure that everything's 100% on them, right? So is that a selling feature now? I don't think it's a big one now, but the way everything is evolving, especially when it comes to terpenes now, before it seemed like everybody was kind of shopping on that THC value or that THC end. And now people are really starting to discover the benefits from terpenes. And I really think that's, a good push. And we started, printing the terpenes on the bottle or on the bottles or on the packages to kind of inform the customers and inform people of, the terpenes that are there. So I don't know, like, is adding, we tissue culture our stuff going to be a better selling feature? Maybe. but knowing that it's done, and bud tenders knowing that that we do it, and BZAM does it. We actually just did it with all the mums over there. We've already done it with Dunn Cannabis a few times now, but we made the call over there. Hey, you know what? Let's take everything in the mum room. Let's send it out for tissue culture. Let's restart it. Do a full sani on our room. Make sure that the mums are in the best condition that they can be. And that's one thing when I'm going around to these different nurseries and making my selection and choosing my phenos or who to do business with. You can really tell by the condition of the mums what kind of growers they are, or the quality that you're going to get when you're ordering clones from a facility. If the mums look scraggy, if the mums look like they've got bugs, if the mums don't look healthy, then you're basically just getting an unhealthy plant and then trying to make the best of it. So I have found a few facilities, and their mums are amazing, and they do the same practices that we do with tissue culturing, with viral scans, as well as guys that don't use pesticides. Now, this is one thing that I'm not sure if the bud tenders know, but we don't use pesticides at all. Not or fungicides. We don't use either of those, right? So we tailor our environments to ensure that we don't get powder mildew, and we track them daily. We have somebody that runs around and reports on our environmentals literally like every single day. When it comes to bugs, we use biobugs. So that's good bugs that are going to eat bad bugs, essentially. And so we really do have a clean product. It is like somebody just commented, Kelly, there, it's all natural growing. And it has taken a long time. When you go back to us before Dunn Cannabis in the black market, and a lot of black market growers, there's really no care about what's going into the product. And it's let's just grow weed and let's just get it out there, right? If you got a bug, you spray it. If you got mildew, you spray it. There was bro science, there was no science behind it, right? So now with legalization and trying to create this super clean and trying to get the best product out there for the customer, we've got to bring the science end of it now. What's causing powder mildew, what's causing slow growth, what's causing this, and then you got to bring the science in, change your rooms, change your formulations, and man, I'll never go back to growing the way we used to. The way we do it now, the quality of product that we are coming out with is I love it, and it's only getting better. Each round, each time. Like Sabine had mentioned, new terpenes are coming out in some old cultivars that we have, right? And we're enhancing our environment, creating a better condition for the plants, and they're producing better THC values. They're better terpene values. So we're really excited about everything coming up.
Love that. Thank you, Dave. And we're also seeing it from BZAM side of things. We've done a few tastings and just grow practices and quality of product consistently getting better, and your commitment to that is very cool to see. So thank you for everything that you're doing in this space. I'm just looking at the chat here. I see that there's a question about the prospect of growing CBD under Dunn's portfolio. What are we thinking?
It hasn't been one that's really crossed us yet, but it's not something that we wouldn't do in the future. If the demand is there, I mean, that would have to come down to, I guess, the bud tenders or marketing departments letting us know, right? So there is higher CBD strains that we are sourcing out, not just the high THC ones, right? So we're going to try to find more balanced ones or higher CBD with some THC. So it's in the works, but it's not something that we're currently working on right now.
I think that's a great question though too. And in terms of like things that are coming down the pipeline, but also pheno hunting, because a lot of the pheno hunting, it takes so much effort, right, to do the pheno hunting, and not everything that you pheno hunt even if it's successful, can always come to market just because the demand might not always be there. And for people that don't always know, the provinces a lot of the times actually ask for specific things. They'll be like, oh, this month we're looking for this type of flower or like this type of thing. So there's a lot of nuance to like what comes out when. So I know for pheno hunting, like taking notes and just making sure that you're like knowing exactly like what that pheno does. And if it's not a fit for now, it could be a fit for the future when the demand is slightly different. And there's a lot of kind of weird circular like back and forth between like what consumers are buying, but also what the provinces want to buy, right? Because consumers can only buy what the provinces buy in like a lot of weird ways. So it's always a conversation, and there are some higher CBD strains that are coming out, which I think will be interesting. But yeah, it's a lot of layers.
I'd like to take a minute and see if anyone's got questions for Dave, Sabine, myself, anyone else on the call. Just a great comment to throw out there. Seeing a lot of hype around Cobra Lips, so looks like that will be part of my shopping list on the next purchase.
They're gonna have to get it from Ontario though. So sorry.
I'll have to get it shipped over. Tatiana, can you help me out? Send some weed to BC, please. And then Casey, unfortunately, wasn't able to visit the Edmonton BZAM facility. So hopefully we'll be able to figure out another time where we can make that work. And anyone else who's on the call who's near to either Dunn or BZAM, hopefully we can, yeah, make that happen. CBG. Horizon's curious about CBG as well as Dawn. Any questions specifically about that we may or may not be able to answer, but most likely can have an answer for you?
Just in regards to that, the new cannabinoids coming up and finding a new cultivars, we do have a breeder right now that is working on a cultivar that does test high in that. So it's just going through the process of stress testing and everything else before it gets to market. So we are working on finding cultivars that do produce and do have higher levels of certain cannabinoids. So it is fairly new, and a lot of people are still working on that, and that's specifically down to breeders. Just because it's found, like I say, doesn't mean it's a stable genetic. If it has a higher level of a certain cannabinoid in it, great, everybody wants it. But if the product is herming out on us, or we can't actually produce a decent flower out of it, then we can't bring it to market. So like I say, with new cannabinoids, it's a little bit of work. New cultivars, it is a little bit of work, and it does take time before it gets to market, before it can even be ramped up large scale. So we are working with people right now who are working on that, and we're hoping to see hopefully a new cultivar in our facility come 2023, really. So hopefully that answers some of the question there.
Looking forward to that. We're seeing some interesting things happening in the United States with different cannabinoids or minor cannabinoids. And then also things that, to be honest, I've never even heard of before, that are just coming out. So in general, when we see something trending, like the runts, for example, which was genetic or cultivar that was really trending in the United States, and then that movement kind of came up to Canada, we're seeing that with CBG and other cannabinoids. So to answer Dawn's question, I'm assuming that CBG is going to be something that LPs are looking more into. I remember when cannabis first legalized in Canada, I was working for a company called Trek brand, but Whistler Therapeutics at the time brought out a CBG strain or a cultivar that was that I quite enjoyed, but I don't think the cannabinoid was too popular yet, and with a lot of education and research around it. But I do, yes, the shiatsu. Was that what it was by Whistler? I think it was. But yeah, interesting. And speaking about CBG, I just had this vape cart that was a combination of THC, CBD, CBG, which I personally thought was quite an interesting blend. Sabine,
Cool.
what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's like interesting because I think it's like about the same thing. We almost don't know enough. And I think my hesitation from like a marketing standpoint, with just like, this is my personal opinion, is I always get like semi-nervous about talking about something until I fully understand it, or in like until we have enough information about it. Because I think in my past life, I used to work in a space where it was also like a wellnessy space. And a lot of the times, like the amount of that ingredient that you need to like make an impact is quite different than the amount that's actually in a thing. So it can be there. So I think there's like a little bit more that we need to know. But I also think that's the point and like the joy of legalization as we're all going through this. Exactly what Dave was saying is like what you're looking for now in terms of like what you want in a flower is totally different. So as we keep going through like breeding and pheno hunting and really streamlining to grow the best plants that everyone possibly can, like we really, anything could happen. So it's going to be a really exciting time, I think, too. So yeah, but it's a cool time.
Indeed.
I'd
Simone,
love to sneak peek though, something really exciting. Well, two things that are really exciting. Well, I know I had a couple people ask if they could co-visit. You totally can come visit if you're in Edmonton. Just ask your rep, and the reps have it all set up, and they'll be able to take you to the facility. We're just about to finish the tour process for the other facilities and the one in Abbotsford at Dunn, which will be great. So just hold a little bit tighter, and then we'll be able to do that. But Dave, I was wondering if you could talk about Black Apple Hitchcock. Wow, that was not a sentence, but Black Apple Hitchcock is the first 7-gram underneath the Dunn brand that's going to launch in BC next week or in a couple weeks, which I'm freaking out about. Because at Craft 7-gram, I think it's really exciting, guys. I'm freaking out. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds fantastic.
It's the best. And Dave, I know almost nothing about it besides what I've read. So I would love your hot gossip on it.
That was a in-house cross, and it does have some valley gas in there, as well as the original Island Pink and one other cultivar. We've got, again, when we pheno hunt, it comes down to, you know, we pop a ton of beans, pop a ton of seeds. We run all the different programs on them. We see how they grow. This one does grow. It has a very, very dark finish. It's almost so purple it turns black. So that's kind of where the name had come from. Yeah, you guys will just have to see when it hits the market. So the nice thing is the 7-gram pack on it, and it's very interesting pheno. It has a really nice finish, very similar nose to, I would say, more of the gas. It leans more towards the gas. It does hit like gas too, so it's very, very stony. And yeah, that's about it.
I missed the part. Will it be available in Ontario?
It's not on the list for Ontario just yet, but anything could always happen. There is a couple of exciting things coming to Ontario. Grateful Breath is about to hit Ontario underneath the BZAM times Dunn Cross series. And then I don't have too much information on this yet, so I can't answer every question, but Dunn is going to launch a 1-gram live rosin vape in Ontario in November. It's called Apples and Bananas. We're very excited.
Hey, who sings that song, Apples and Bananas?
With a live, that's an awesome to make that happen. That's a really awesome process. We're really excited about that one.
I think it'll be killer. So, but I think like with flower, there are so many exciting things coming down the pipeline. In terms of like pheno hunting, Dave, because it's something that you guys focus on, you do a lot of in-house breeding. When you're looking for a successful pheno, like what kind of characteristics do you specifically pick out?
There's so many different contributing factors. I mean, a yielder is nice, but it's not 100% crucial. Finding color, something that's very colorful, trichome production, and terpenes. I mean, those are kind of the 3 big hitters right there for us. You know, like when the Black Apple, that like it finished black. I wish I had a photo I could share, but I don't. It almost looks like a black plant when it finishes. You guys will see the buds are very dark. Trichome production is beautiful. So we kind of select that one over any other one. It's really hard to make the decision when you're pheno hunting. There will be some winners, and I mean, they are great producers, but they don't have the specific terpenes to it. You know, it'll look beautiful, but the nose isn't there, or vice versa. It'll have great trichome and no nose. So there's a lot that you have to go through when selecting phenos per se. Stress testing is huge, and that's not a thing that a lot of people do. So, you know, we'll increase our room temperatures, or we decrease our room temperatures. We increase our feeds, our ppms. We want to make sure that we've got a very stable genetic coming to market, so that we don't have a problem with herming or with seeding out, or a product that is susceptible to mold. When you're pheno hunting, that's one thing that really stands out. You know, one that fights off natural pests and pathogens is what you want. You want a really strong genetic to come into market. So that's all part of the process, and it is a bit of a process. Nonetheless, like I say, some of the phenos that we have brought to market, they were hunted for over a year, right? And we had a selection of genetics, and we're like, oh, this is it. These are going to be the winners. And then, you know, you keep hunting and you find something better. So you're like, okay, well, now this is it. So you let that old pheno go per se. But yeah, 2023 lineup is going to be absolutely insane. We just started Platinum Kush Breath. We have White Truffle, Waffle Cone. We've got some pretty desserty, really awesome, super high terpene, high THC, heavy hitters in the works right now. So we're really excited about all that.
Like literally freaking out about Waffle Cone, and I really hope we can get that name pushed over the edge, because that would be incredible. I do have a photo actually of that black apple Hitchcock. I've got a couple photos. It's a little bit brighter here because it's like a flash, obviously, but it's quite dark. I just am sharing my screen now. It's stunning. I got a
Can't
couple.
see any. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So it does finish a little darker than that. Yeah. That is flash, but it does have a lot of black tones to it. So that definitely did light up a bit. It is for difficulty on growing, it's, I would say, probably a 7 out of 10. You know, it's environmental sensitive. It's not a 2 pound of light strain, unfortunately, but I think it yields around 1.5 pounds of light, which is quite low. But you just can't pass up on that finish. It's beautiful.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. Sorry. When it comes to pheno hunting, I'm assuming you also want your production per light to be as high as possible. So how are those different factors weighted? Like, what's more important? Is it that they're really resistant to fighting off disease, or is it that they yield like a good amount, or, you know, potency, terpene profile? What are you looking for when you're pheno hunting mostly?
This is kind of all part of the process. You know, if we're testing a cultivar under our normal grow conditions, and say it takes on, I mean, let's just say it's a beautiful product. We found, you know, it's got everything we're looking for, but the cultivar itself, it's starting to take on powder mildew, or it's starting to take on pathogen, or whatever the problem it is, if bugs like it, whatever the case is. We'll take that and we'll try to grow it in one of our smaller rooms, and we'll try to change the environment on it, right? So we'll try to go with a higher VBD, which is essentially higher humidity is creating the plant to transpire a little heavier, a little hotter. We'll try to tailor it to that. If that fails, if that doesn't work, then it's not really a pheno that we want to grow, right? Or that we can grow. So that's all part of the stress testing. When it comes down, this is one thing that I love about working with Logan, is like a lot of people I've worked for in the past, it's all number driven. It's got to be 2 pounds of light. It's got to be this number. It's got to be that number, or we're not growing it, period. And Logan's a lot different, like Pink Velvet, even the Black Apple. A few of these, they're not heavy yielders, right? but they are gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous flowers. So Logan will grow them. He'll commit to it. And it, you know, the process is quite expensive to flower. You know, you're you're with that plant for 12 weeks. You're paying 12 weeks of staff wages and food and the whole program with it. So when it comes down to you know, pounds per light, it is kind of crucial, because yes, you do got to keep the doors open, but it's not 100% Logan's focus, right? His focus is finding the unique flowers, finding the unique terpene profiles, finding stuff that the consumers are going to love, right? So.
Yeah, that's incredible. But at the end of the day, I mean, it is a business too. And as you said, you have to keep the lights on. So unfortunately, those things do need to be considered. And that's something that I think consumers don't necessarily take into consideration when they're looking at price points. And understanding, you know, why you need unique genetics. Well, they may not necessarily be yielding the most for the cost of production, and therefore they cost more. And, you know, those conversations are eventually going to be really important, because we're seeing a lot of price compression. A lot of small growers are being driven out of the market because of that. And so just to include everyone on these types of conversations and understanding that, you know, there is a whole industry behind it. Their bills need to get paid, profit is going to be made. And how do you do that and find the right balance between, you know, not just doing it for the money, putting the plant first, but making the right decisions so that it's sustainable. And yeah, I think that brings up a good point and an important conversation that people should be having.
I think, like, too, if I can add to this, it's I think it's incredible that there are these partnerships like what we have with Dunn, and that Dunn is also doing so many partnerships with other micros, because that is really the way that we're all going to be able to survive together. And I think us being able to function as a business is the only way that we can produce those flower, right? So it's very much hand in hand. Like, you can't grow the flower if you don't have the business, and like vice versa, you know? And I think in terms of like pricing, it's not always a thing that everybody always thinks about, and all of the tiny pieces. Like, I know, for example, and the only reason this came up because people always ask me, and I was like waiting for someone to ask and no one asked. So I was like, okay, I'll mention it. Is like bags, for example, versus glass. Glass is incredibly expensive and takes a huge chunk away from those other things that you might want to like put your dollars or invest your time in. And the glass a lot of times is actually, unfortunately, not recyclable. So like when you factor in all of the different pieces and the cost of the glass, but the cost of shipping the glass, because it also takes up more space, you could ship physically less, and it actually costs more to ship because it's heavier. Like, there's actually a lot of different layers that are really important that we always try to consider and work with our partners to make sure that we're all doing the best we can in a lot of different ways. So it's super interesting, I think, like, to think about all the tiny weird pieces that come together to bring us to the industry we have right now and are smoking, which is great.
Agreed. We have a few people on the call. I'd love to just get someone involved. And who's got questions? Who wants to know what? Simone, did that answer your questions about pheno hunting, or did you want to dig into something else there?
No, you answered them.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I got a question. What goes with your namesake to make sure that we as bud tenders can sell both BZAM and specifically Dunn better than any other brand that's out there at the moment? What makes you unique? Because I like to make sure that I have the unique ideas and stuff that I can give to those people. Like, throwing out there that it's an Edmonton based product usually wins over my clientele. So what is it that's going to help me win over my clientele to purchase your products?
I think that's a great question. I think on the Dunn side, for folks that love BC craft, and especially a lot of people that have had really great flower back in the day and like remember that, they're like, I used to get XYZ and it was amazing. A lot of those lineages and are in the mix with what the craft offerings underneath Dunn are coming out on the table. And they're also really, really high quality offerings. So I think as we all kind of think more about how we're moving people from the gray market into the legal space, like that's a really great time. And I think when you're talking to customers who have a craft beer vibe, I actually would also have that conversation with them about Dunn, because it's very much the same. And I do think that there are some layers between liquor and cannabis where craft beer people understand the time and energy and different flavor profiles and why they're paying slightly more for that item, which is exactly the same vibes for like a craft flower, where you're hoping to get this really hard hitting flavor profile that's unique and have really, really frosty and have it be like almost too sticky, where potentially a grinder is not the vibe. My partner got mad at me the other day because of a flower that was too sticky. But I think BC Bud craft offerings and done by hand all the way through are really, really, really like good takeaways. Dave, do you have anything else that you would add?
I think you hit some huge points right there. And like I say, I mean, as a bud tender, I can only imagine how it is when there's 100 different SKUs or 100 different jars or bottles on the shelf. You know, one thing that I can guarantee, like I said, if you open the bag to the pre-rolls, they're in the tin, that nose hits you. You know, you can guarantee that you're getting or selling your customers a quality product. I was in Kelowna there a couple of weeks ago, actually visiting a nursery, and I heard that one of the stores, I think Glenview Cannabis or something like that, had Valley Gas on sale. I was like, you know what? I got to do it. I got to go grab a couple jars. And, you know, I mean, it was an older batch, but I'll tell you, as soon as I popped the seal on that, it just hit you in the face. And, you know, you pour the weed out, and it had, it was gorgeous. I mean, the trichomes were there, the color was there, the proper cure was there. They're not getting a dry, dusty product. You can almost guarantee that every time when you're selling the product, that it is going to be quality, it is going to be good. And like I say, when we select our cultivars to bring them to market, we're not just selecting something that's going to win for us. Like I say, I mean, a heavy hitter production wise, we're selecting things that, you know, have the highest terpene profiles or unique terpene profiles, have the color, have everything that basically, you know, we think that a consumer would be looking for and looking to enjoy. So, I mean, that's kind of a selling feature for yourself. It's nice to be able to recommend something and not have it come back on you. You know, this product looked like shit. There was no nose to it. It was dry dusted. It was small pieces, you know, which small pieces are kind of hard to avoid sometimes. But, you know, we do go, you know, the processing is making sure that there's quality product in there every time, right? So hopefully that helps answer your question.
I think I wanted to also highlight one thing, and then there's a question from Coco that I can definitely answer. But in terms of if you see like a Dunn strain and you're like, I don't know anything about this, it's just on the menu, or it's just on the sell sheet, or it's just on the whatever, like understanding that it is craft, a unique lineage, and BC Bud is always like your go-tos. But I wanted to talk about the acai berry gelato because I do have some photos of it, and I think this is a really good example of like what you guys really focus on, Dave, because the acai berry gelato, wow, I cannot say that word, pre-rolls are full flower. And I'm going to share my screen, but it was really, really important to Logan to put full flower in those. So I'm going to show some photos, but I'm wondering if you can just talk about like why it's really important to make sure that you are putting that quality flower in a pre-roll as well, because that experience is still the same, and kind of what went into acai berry gelato as a whole.
That's actually, you know, when we started sending product to Airport Way processing, they were blown away. They were mind boggled that we were sending this kind of product in for pre-rolls. And I think that's kind of what started and got intrigued about the whole business relationship and doing a collab, is that, you know, we don't send any shaken for any of our pre-rolls. And it's actually quite shocking. I mean, I wish I had some pictures. Next time I'll make sure I have some pictures. But I mean, we're talking kilos of small pieces. You know, anything that's a dime or smaller than a quarter basically goes in for pre-roll. And sure, it financially, I mean, you could make more money if you're sending in your trim waste or shake like a lot of people do. But you know, Logan really prides himself, and you guys can also sell that on the pre-rolls, that this is made from whole flower, and from gorgeous flower at that. Your customers are getting really the best. What we want to provide is the best pre-rolls on the market. And like, we have talked to different processing facilities, and we have heard different guys, like, the product they're getting is for pre-roll is subpar.
How are your pre-rolls rolled? That flower looks amazing, by the way. Thanks for sharing those images. That was a lovely few seconds of eye candy.
Yeah, so our pre-roll journey, like, collectively has been like really interesting. So it took us a long time to really nail down the machines. We are using a machine, but they are cones. And then right now they're a twist tip, which is done by hand, but we're going to be moving to the flat top.
Interesting. What do people on the call think about twist and flat top pre-rolls? Are there any preferences? Are they making the right moves?
I kind of love flat top.
I love me a flat top all day. I find when it's a twister that when you burn it and it falls and you burn your clothes. I got so many clothes that have a little burn hole.
Honestly, totally fair. I think something too that's like interesting, again, if we're talking about the layers of like pricing, but also like humans involved, is twisting needs to be done by hand. So it's actually quite a labor intensive task. So there's like a lot of different reasons why you would move away from a twist. So we're excited to do a flat top, which is great. And yeah, like it's been a really wild ride in terms of pre-rolls, which is awesome. I did have one question though that I wanted to answer. Coco's asking that you're from a small island in BC and you don't always get the SKUs, and you have people asking for BZAM and Dunn, and is it easier for you to purchase our brands? So Coco, good news is in BC, the Dunn team did just get their license for direct delivery. So it officially starts on the 15th, but that actually won't be the time that we'll be able to actually do direct delivery, because the province still has to sort some things out afterwards. But we're really, really excited that you will be able to order direct from Dunn, which would be super awesome and really just allow some more spaces in places. So for folks in BC, that direct delivery option is going to be available for Dunn pretty soon. We're super excited about it.
That's awesome. We should probably do a session on that new direct delivery program, so that anyone working in BC can understand how that's going to be navigated. But also in Ontario, there's a direct delivery coming out soon, isn't there? Or some sort of flow through program?
Flow through. Yeah, I learned a lot about flow through. It's not really as direct as I thought it was. It still goes from us to the OCS space and then goes from OCS to the stores. Way less direct, super not direct, very weird.
Yeah, that just sounds like how it works now.
Which is wild. Dave, is there anything else you want to share, or any other questions from the crowd? I don't know. We're almost done, but.
Thank you so much for joining us. We have a couple minutes left, so if anyone does want to pop in and say hi, we'd love to hear your voice, see your face. We do have a giveaway for today's session. So Tatiana, if you can pick or choose our lucky winner, and we can get connected with them as well after the session. But thank you everyone for joining. Hope it was valuable for you and you learned a lot. And Dave and Sabine, it's always a pleasure speaking with you and talking about this plant that we all know and love, and learning from you all the time. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks a bunch for everybody.
I'll put a link in the
Appreciate hearing
chat.
everything all about the stuff, especially coming from out in Ontario. It's great to be sharing the same last name per se, but it's great to be hearing about all the stuff hands-on and micro cult stuff. It's great to be able to tell other people about how small craft stuff is slowly finding its way onto the market. And like someone was saying at the same time, the craft cannabis could easily be combined in the same section as, a good craft alcohol kind of thing.
Fabs. Sean, if you send me your email address, I will send you a t-shirt because you definitely deserve one because you have the same name. So you'll get a Dunn t-shirt. Very excited about that. But Dave, do you have anything else?
That's about it. I'm just glad we could be here and, help, get our name and our brand and answer any questions out there. There's a ton of work that goes into craft, even though they're smaller facilities. Like I say, there's a lot more time and focus that goes into sourcing out and finding these cultivars and these phenos. And, it's really hard for the bud tenders, I have to say. And I really think that these sessions are great because you guys get hands-on and you get a chance to ask the questions or to learn about Dunn or BZAM products. So, we're looking forward to doing more of them. This farm gate is super exciting. And for the bud tenders, like, we're looking forward to doing more of them. This farm gate tours, everybody come up, in the shop, all the product and a lot of exciting things.
Thank you so much, Dave. Tatiana.
Yes, let me pull the name. All right, guys, as normal, as you guys popped in, I wrote your names down, and here they all are. The winner of today's draw is Rob.
Congratulations, Rob. If you could please put your email in the chat, we will make sure that we get everything to you in due course. Thank you everyone for joining and see you next week. If you have any questions, reach out to Sabine directly or you can contact BTA as well. Have a beautiful day.
Bye. Thanks for hosting, Casey.
Thank you. Have a great weekend, everyone.
You guys as well. Have a great weekend.